2020 was a year full of problems, civil unrest, a global pandemic, and worst of all, the freaking Pringles guy change.
You are now watching The Meech.
In the grand scheme of things, the Pringles guy is the least of our worries, but it did bring up a good discussion, and that's the fact that I hate oversimplified logos. In case you're unaware of what they are, they're a trend in marketing where logos and mascots are designed in a way to not include a lot of detail. Oversimplified, if you will. There are many different ways to approach this quote-unquote art style. Let's take a look at one of my favorite examples. Dunkin' Donuts has never had a flashy logo to begin with. Their old logo and name fit right in with the current minimalist trend. And for what Dunkin' Donuts represents, it works! You go in there in the morning, get a coffee, no need for a bold logo. But in 2019, they got rid of the coffee cup and renamed themselves Dunkin'. Dunkin'! It makes me laugh more than anything. Dunkin'! Like a guy's name. I get why they did it. Dunkin' is a nickname for Dunkin' Donuts, but officially calling it Dunkin' is like Walmart changing its name to Wally World, or McDonald's changing its name to Mickey D's. In all fairness though, some brands have benefited from minimalism. I thought the old eBay logo was pretty ugly before, and it looks less ugly now. And for companies like Starbucks and Apple that portray themselves as high class while in reality being the same junk that everyone else is selling, it works! But the reason why I hate minimalism and oversimplified logos aren't because they're used for brands that make sense to use it. They are used for almost everything. When you have a product, you have to understand what your target demographic is and what the product is associated with. Let's take Pepsi for example. When you think of Pepsi, you think of one of two things: a gateway to obesity, or a refreshing cold beverage during a hot summer day, or really any day in Florida. I'm assuming you think the latter. Look at the Pepsi logo from the mid-2000s. It screams, "This drink is cold and refreshing and will quench your thirst." The Pepsi logo is bold, and you have the globe smashing through the ice with water droplets. This makes me want to drink a Pepsi, but the current logo just makes me want a Coke. Looks like any other drink. To be fair, at least the logo is still a logo and represents what it's supposed to be. But to be honest, I can't see how anyone would prefer the new logo over the old. Now let's take a look at some more examples. If you grew up anytime in the 90s or 2000s, you probably have fond memories watching Nickelodeon. I mean, how could you not? It had a ton of great cartoons and live action shows, and was known for being wacky. Their old Splat logo represented everything Nickelodeon stood for. Nickelodeon was known for sliming contestants when they had game shows, along with their award show, and that's what their logo represented. But in 2009, they changed it to a generic lowercase font saying Nickelodeon. The reason? Some buffoon working at Nickelodeon thought it would look good on a business card. Because, you know, nothing screams highbrow and professional like iCarly. Gibby! For gosh sake, this isn't NPR, this is Nickelodeon we're talking about. I hated the logo change when I was a kid, and I hate it even more now. In some cases of minimalism, some companies wonder how much is too much. And in Mastercard's case, the brand name was just too much. Everyone remembers the iconic Mastercard logo, a yellow and red ball merging together with the Mastercard logo. It wasn't flashy or out there, but for the minimalism change, they left it to just the two balls and made a Venn diagram. For gosh sakes, not everything needs to be that basic. Literally anyone could make this logo. You might think this is just a problem with American brands, but don't be mistaken, the minimalist plague is spread throughout the entire world. Though I'd rather have that one over the current plague we're dealing with. Let's take a trip to Greece. Every time I go there, I look forward to going to the kiosk to get one of my favorite Greek snacks, Drakulinia. It was rebranded to Cheetos decades ago, but don't be mistaken, this is a Greek snack through and through. This is what the bag looked like throughout most of the 2010s. Look how cool this looks. Chester Cheetahs rocking a black shirt and jeans, and vampire fangs. There are leafless trees in the background, giving it a spooky atmosphere, which makes sense considering that these are vampire fangs, hence the name Drakulinia. The design looks super cool, and makes me want a bag even more. 20% of the enjoyment came from the awesome packaging, 80% for the actual snack, which, by the way, Frito-Lay, if you're watching this, please, bring Drakulinia to the States. I guarantee they'll be a hit. But in mid-2019, the minimalist plague hit. They look so boring now. The backgrounds are flat, and Chester Cheetah looks nowhere near as cool. I'm not usually the one to like the transition from 2D to 3D, but in Chester Cheetah's case, it makes him look even cooler. Now it's just Chester messing around with Cheetos on a purple bag. You can still use a 2D design to make the packaging cool. The American Cheetos have great packaging, which fortunately hasn't been tampered with since I was a kid. But in Cheetos' case, it's freaking Cheetos. This isn't Greece's finest feta cheese with a glass of ouzo. It's a snack targeted towards mainly kids that everyone can enjoy. There was no need to make the packaging this boring. And that brings us to the inspiration for the video, the Pringles guy. The Pringles guy wasn't anything that was too flashy to begin with. Just a head shaped like a Pringle, some eyes, a bow tie, hair, and a mustache. But I guess detail and gradients are really crossing the line. They made him bald and only have solid colors. This is such a downgrade from the previous Pringles guy. He looks so boring. Why fix something that wasn't broken to begin with? Again, people who eat Pringles regularly aren't usually the ones who are in the Starbucks or Apple crowd. These oversimplified logos aren't changing anyone's mind. You know, when your parents tell you about useless degrees in college, they usually bring up things like humanities or liberal arts. Well, let me tell you, let's add graphic design to that list. It's clear that logos don't need any effort nowadays, and literally anyone can make them. Want proof? I'll be making my own modern logos to share with you guys, and will probably be hired by whatever company sees my amazing work. Okay, so we're going to be using Mario Paint to make the logos, because Photoshop was too expensive for the budget. But in reality, all you need for a budget to make logos nowadays is a chip, a used napkin, and a penny. Let's start by making a new Doritos logo. Whenever I go to Starbucks and order my drinks on my iPhone, I feel so classy to the point where I want to tear open and devour a bag of Doritos right when I get home. That's a target demographic, right? Alright, so we'll make the logo yellowish orange or marigold if you will. Make it a triangle. Boom. Our logo is almost done. Now let's add the name because heaven forbid someone mistakes some for Dipsy Doodles. Done. I also shortened the name to be more appealing to consumers. There we go. We can't have Doritos without a nice refreshing Mountain Dew. But it's clear gamers don't like things like detailed graphics and flashy design. Let's fix it! Okay, so we'll make a mountain because it wouldn't be Mountain Dew without the mountain. Add some snow to the mountain. Almost done! And for the name, we'll follow in Dunkin's footsteps and call it Dewey. There we go! 10 out of 10 design right there. Wendy's, the fast food restaurant that everyone used to forget existed before the age of Twitter. The logo now features the name and the Pippi Longstocking inspired Wendy. Unfortunately, this logo looks too appealing. Let's fix it! Gotta remove the name, of course. Names are too flashy. Then what we're gonna do is get rid of the facial features. Gotta keep this as oversimplified as possible, draw out a few shapes, and bam! We just created a logo appealing to absolutely nobody, except for corporate freaks who think people will find it appealing. McDonald's. Let's oversimplify that logo. Okay, maybe we should make an exception here. Sega. One of the most well-known gaming companies despite not having a console of their own for over 2 decades. The Sega logo always reminded me of the Sears logo, and funnily enough, Sears changed their logo to be more minimalistic. Yeah, the minimalism there really brought Sears back into relevancy, so I'm sure it'll work for Sega. After all, the average iSheep is killing to play some Sonic Forces. Let's fix the logo. I could have typed this out if I wanted to, but it works too. Graphic design at its finest. Finally, we'll do my Gator mascot. As you can see, it looks too colorful and interesting. We need to fix this and make it more appealing, because it needs to look good on a business card. First, we're going to use some basic geometry. Add some triangles, a few circles, and there! We are done! Minimalism at its finest. So there you have it. As you can tell, I don't like oversimplified logos. They're more often than not incredibly boring, and strip the charm of what made the original logos great and memorable. They are made to cater to such a specific demographic, when in reality, they simply wouldn't or rarely would buy a lot of these products. Most people in the Starbucks crowd would eat organic sweet potato chips or veggie straws over Pringles, and overall, they just aren't appealing. What I'd suggest companies do is go back to what worked in the 2000s and have logos that actually took thought and care to make. There's also a huge wave of 2000s nostalgia incoming, so now would be the perfect time to capitalize on it. Not saying everything was better back then, but the logos certainly were. So what do you guys think? Do you like oversimplified logos? Let me know in the comments, and keep calm and da-da on.